Welcome to Hidden Wisdom Radio, shining wisdom on everyday issues of the heart, mind, and soul, hosted by spiritual success mentor Bernadette Gold and intuitive empowerment strategist Julie O'Brien. Father, Mother, God, give us the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and a heart to understand all you wish us to know. Help us co-create a life of love, joy, and compassion for ourselves and others. Amen. Those of you who are new, my name is Bernadette, and I've been mentoring clients through their personal issues and their business issues since 2000, using my intuitive gifts of clairvoyance, clairaudience, channeling, mediumship, and spiritual counseling. I'm here right on Facebook. I'm on all over the place. You guys can look me up, bernadettegold.com. But I have the lovely and really powerful Julie O'Brien. So Julie, would you share with everyone what your genius is, what you do and what you focus on? Because I know you're just like me. You're, multi-passionate and you have lots of things you do for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bernadette. And thank you so much for persevering with this. I'm really excited. As you said, I'm multi-passionate. I'm also multifaceted. So I suppose the best way to explain me being an intuitive empowerment strategist is that I get to work with lots of people in and around their mindset, how they're thinking, how they're feeling, but also how do we bring that together with our spirit and our intuition. And so the last sort of 15 years, I've been coaching with the methodology of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And for those of you who do or don't know much about that, can I just simply say it's just the way our brain, physically likes to create neural pathways and belief patterns that creates our behaviors. And it's a study that basically allows us to go in to our unconscious mind and change our beliefs to therefore change our behaviors. So that was sort of predominantly what I was using in business. I had a corporate role for years in learning and development and change. And so it's been the last 12 months, 18 months that I decided to, I did up and left my safety and security and decided to create a space to work with intuitive business women who really wanted to break out of their world of status quo and create a passionate business out of their gifts and out of their intuition and really just a more empowered life. That's and sort of in Australia, NLP is sort of not as well known as it is in America and in the UK. So I've been lucky to be in these sort of grounding years of bringing it out into spaces. And so it's sort of, that's my passion, but I've loved to bring it into my spiritual and intuitive world. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm playing with trying to get the banners right and the overlay removed. You guys, for those of you who are coming on late, Blog Talk Radio literally went down right as I was calling in to start our show. And Julie couldn't get on. I couldn't get on. Ridiculousness. And yet this is what happens a lot. I mean, I've had some powerful people on my show long ago, and literally we shut stuff down. I was excited to come back. Julie, you were too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
So we're kind of last minute putting this together on a Facebook Live, and then we're going to download it and put it as an episode right onto Hidden Wisdom. Hopefully Blog Talk gets their stuff straightened out, but we're not going to let it stop us. We did want to talk to you guys about some things that we've been talking about, some things that are coming up, certainly for our clients and whatnot. So yeah, Julie sent me a really cool article, and it just goes right along with what I've been feeling. And I shared it on my page yesterday. Julie, can you share what that kind of what your thoughts are? Not the article necessarily, just your thoughts on the topic of this ultra positivity spiritualism.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it sort of aligns to basically my principles when I'm working with somebody and holding the space for them to sort of understand their own intuition, and also to understand that everything that happens to us is not bad, but also it's not about being ultra positive all the time. There's a universal law that really is about equilibrium. And I think as humans and society will often sort of teach us to be good and to be positive. But today we actually need the other half, which is to be bad and to have negativity. Just like when I'm talking about emotions, there are no bad emotions. There is just an emotion, and whether it's dysfunctional or functional, will play out in how we think and feel and act. So this ultra positivity, people will tend to think that just by sitting and saying affirmative words or, trying to think positive all the time, they're actually going against their grain of embracing the experiences that are happening, because they're happening for a reason. They have purpose. The pains, the sorrows, the traumas, on such a higher level and even on a spiritual level, are there to teach us something. So it's not about discounting them, getting rid of them and replacing them just with positivity. I think that is dangerous, because then people are creating more of an unrealistic reality, if that makes sense.
It does. And you and I have talked about it, and I think I've done live streams on it, this whole thing of spiritual bypassing, using spirituality as a way to bypass how you're feeling, how you're really feeling is, I think, a very dangerous practice. I don't think that, I think it becomes another addiction, right?
Yeah. Or an excuse, another way to validate something that because the power is outside of us, instead of embracing the actual fact that it's within us, and it's navigating and exploring those things for ourselves, and it comes from within. Because I have found that, and because I am that linguist, that I'm listening to words all the time, I can hear that it becomes the Band-Aid for many things. And therefore, the person is really not connecting with the actuality of what's happening or what they're feeling, or even with their spirit. So, yeah.
It's disheartening. Honestly, it's an unfortunate side of the work that we do. We have to see that side of it. There's that other side of it where people come to us and they want that miracle solution, that quick fix pill. Let me go find an intuitive to fix my business or to fix my life or to fix my relationship. And it just doesn't work that way. And I think that too is an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah. And I think this is, you have it in your teachings where you're forever, framing things up so that people understand it's their complete 100% responsibility for their learning, for their experience, that it is understanding that you're here to develop your human consciousness around your soul, spirit, and purpose. And there has to be a consciousness around your accountability and the actions that you take. So those of us that we often, and especially in the spiritual space, because I've probably experienced ego in a very different way than being in corporate, and it's the same but different. And I really feel that some people believe that they are in spirit. I believe that they think that they are connecting to pure source. And so therefore they don't have the awareness around, they're actually stuck in their ego and a consciousness that can be very debilitating. And therefore it's about us really knowing how to connect with our intuition. So, whether it be yourself who has been a spiritual mentor and teacher for me, yet you're going to be teaching me through your filters of you come with your model of the world, you come from your experiences. You'll be able to highlight things or show or share with me different strategies. But at the end of the day, it's about me learning what I need to take and adapt that to me and my needs. But I sort of need to know what my needs are first. I use this analogy a lot that we are, and it's very sort of corny, but, you think about a jigsaw puzzle that's not in the box, it's in a plastic bag and it's all these pieces and we're putting it together and we each are one of those pieces. We can look similar, we can sound similar, we can have similar experiences, but we are very individual. And that is our soul, blueprint that we are looking to connect with.
Well, and the other thing, I think just the reminder I got from that article about this fake positivity thing, the reminder I got too was there is this push, and I mean some of my clients will call me and say, well, you know, I feel like I'm crying all the time, and I'm sad all the time, and you know, I'm counter manifesting because of that. And I want you guys to understand, all of you that are listening, right? It's good that you're crying. It's good that you get angry. It's good that you get sad. It's good that you get happy. All the ranges of emotions are what we're meant to feel here, right? We're not meant to always be happy. We can't always be 100% happy. Can we be at peace 100% at the time while having these other lower negative, what we call negative emotions? Absolutely. I can cry and still be at peace. I can be angry, feel an anger towards something unjust, and still remain at peace. I can, you know, look back at a time when I felt a great loss and feel sadness and have tears and cry, but still be at peace. So that's the difference, I think, that people aren't really hearing from a lot of the teachers out there, that hopefully you guys will hear from Julie and I. Like, it's perfectly normal to cry. It's perfectly normal to have down days. It's perfectly normal to hit these points of depression. That is your soul telling you there's something compressed. There's something out of alignment. There's something you're doing that your higher self and soul doesn't want you to do. So good that you're feeling it. Don't get stuck in it, is the point.
And so if we're here to develop that conscious awareness, it's being conscious of the fact that our body and our brain have a science around it, and you know, our body needs to release those chemicals as well as those emotions. So crying has a chemical that we release. We have to do that. On an emotional sense too, we have a way of releasing those emotions, and whenever those emotions are triggered, it's because it's an internal compass to say, look, there's either a lesson here or there needs to be attention and focus consciously put here. And so sometimes that the danger or the shadow of this ultra positivity and spirituality can be, again, that we're giving the power to something, you know, it's definitely having trust and connection with pure source, but it's also knowing that we are channeling that through a human body and a human consciousness. So it's really about conscious awareness that to feel a feeling is to go, great, okay, I'm feeling this feeling, I'm aware of it. And where the peace comes is that we feel aligned with the fact that, okay, it's out of balance. And so how can I take the learnings and embrace this, but also allow myself to learn what needs to happen to develop that part of my consciousness? So it's a very interesting, and I often think of I talk about a manual car, you know, that the foot with the clutch and I've said this before, it's very much an orchestral matrix that we are working with. There's a couple of moving parts, but it's funny how we can create the harmony and the flow through that awareness of spirit and consciousness coming together.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you know, I think it's funny too. I don't think it's funny. Let me be clear on that. I think it's sad and unfortunate that there are so many teachings out there that are making people feel like they have to achieve constant positivity, and that's the only way of manifesting a life that is intentional and manifesting a powerful life. I really have experienced in the last 25 years that I can still manifest amazing stuff, even if I'm in an emotional state. I can still, because it's that maintaining the peace thing. So if there's one bottom line to all of this, we have to get to a place where we are at peace in our minds, in our emotions, in our souls, with what we're doing, who we are, and how we're expressing that. If you have peace, you can experience any number of a range of emotions and still manifest very powerfully what you want to have in your life. And sometimes just expressing how very sad at a loss you are, or how very affected, even joyful tears, you're going to have those things like manifest things into your life. You don't always have to feel the positive side of it, but you don't want to be numb either, because that's the part that I'm not cool with either, is these people are like, well, I don't feel anything, I must be enlightened. That's not it.
Yeah, no. And it's funny because over here we have something called tall poppy syndrome, where basically anybody that does achieve something, somebody quickly wants to come and cut you down. So we tend to repress even the joyful things or things that we can celebrate ourselves or feeling great. So any of that repression, and it's interesting because Beverly sort of has got a message here about when you use spirituality to bypass emotional healing, it can create an internal disconnect and possible neurosis and or psychopathy. Yeah, it's exactly, your neural pathways are being created all the time. You know, they say that we only use 10% of our brain. That's not, no, I've seen the tests and the machines. Your brain all lights up. You're using all of it. It's just we're only conscious of a certain percentage. So the thing is, these neural pathways are creating themselves all the time, definitely along our thought processes. And the thing is, if you're going against that instinctive, intuitive DNA patterning, you're going to create some confusion. Hence, psychosis can absolutely kick in because there's two energies that are fighting against each other. Yeah. And this numbness is, I'm curious to know what other activities are people doing, what are other things that people are consuming that allow them to become numb. So there's definitely the desensitization, which is our narcissists. There's definitely that side of things. Yet when we're empathic, when we're intuitive, when we're highly sensitive, we tend to numb in a different way, even if it is addiction to people or to emotions, which can sometimes be the negative emotions, because we get what's called a secondary gain from them. Yeah. You know, to be in victim, that can be just so rewarding at times. To be in victim, that means that I don't have to have a go. It means that people come and nurture me and make me feel secure. So, you know, you sort of really got to get real and true to who you are and what you're doing, and be very transparent when you're really, truly wanting to work through your own spiritual awareness and development.
So here's an interesting thing that keeps popping up in my head, and I think Spirit's just waving the flag. And I'll give my own interpretation, and then I would love you to jump in and give your interpretation of what spirituality is. Because there's this huge question about what is spirituality, right? We call it spiritual because it's not tangible. It's not something we can see. So to me, spiritual practice, spirituality is our belief system in what our higher selves and our creator and the things we don't see. That's our spirituality. That is what we're developing. That spirituality includes things like the sixth sense. It's the intuition, right? It's the going with the cycles of nature and feeling into things, what's right and what's wrong. Like, to me, that's true spirituality. That's why we practice meditation. That's why we study ancient texts. That's, you know, it's entering into conversation. To me, it's conversation with the universe, with spirit, with source energy, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether I'm awake, consciously, physically awake, or I'm physically asleep. Like, it's the consciousness, the knowing this is coming from spirit. To me, that's what spirituality is. It isn't a matter of, you know, can you meditate for 6 hours straight? Can you, you know, levitate? To me, that's not necessarily spirituality. I think a lot of people glean onto those experiences because it's a way for them to gauge the level of how enlightened you are. And I don't know if that's true. Like, to me, as long as I have peace within myself and a communication with spirit daily and every day, and my life becomes a meditation or my life becomes a prayer, then I feel like that's the path of spirituality. And it's a ever evolving path. It's an ever changing path. It takes my commitment and discipline and my participation with spirit. This isn't just me on my knees begging for help like the ATM machine of God. Like, I'm not just there to say, okay, well, I need this. Now answer my prayers. I mean, I'm constantly just in that place of, let me empty my mind and hear what you have to say to me. I'm in that place of, you can redirect me. This is my plan for today, but here, use me. Let me be your vessel, and then change my plans because they have a whole other plan for me. That to me is what spirituality is. What is it to you, Julie O'Brien?
And I definitely align to your thoughts and your beliefs, and it's absolutely why I sort of gravitate to you and your principles. Yet it's been interesting. What I found is that there are religious practices that use the same word, and it has a whole other connotation to it. So it was no different to being in corporate. You know, I couldn't openly discuss NLP as neuro-linguistic programming, but I could cap it over as neuroscience. Same, but different, and it's a language. And so there was still the same practices, still the same methodologies. What I found is coming out of that space, still playing in that space, but also just for the business space that I work in too, I find that I use the word intuitive instead of spiritual, because in my spaces, when I was talking about spiritual, and we have a very big suburb area in and around my community, that gosh, I'm really not in. I'm not. You know how all different sort of religions will have certain labelings, but basically, it's a foundational Christian community, and their idealization of spirituality is against everything that I do and believe. So what's interesting is my children will talk about mum being spiritual, and when it's spoken about in other communities, it's just very, very different. So it's interesting that you bring that up, because I still myself would, and when I'm speaking with you, it's about our spirituality. It's about developing our spirituality, our awakening. It's another word that can be used. Yeah, really great if we can find, because I'm not really into this new age. I don't sort of feel that that's the umbrella to put it under either. It's a practice. It's a being, and I think it's a little like what I do. And on the weekend, when I had a day where I was doing sort of a bit more of my spiritual stuff and my soul maps and doing some readings, yet I get to do my NLP stuff that's in the intuitive space. I still finish and people just go, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what to call it. So a lot of what I do and who I am, it doesn't have words. It has frequency. It has sounds. You know, I have one of my predominant guides is galactic. So, you know, and to me, you know, I was born and bred in a Catholic belief system. So, you know what? It's a very colourful, multifaceted being and doing. And but I resonate very much with what you said. I know that's a long answer to something that should have been shorter. But it's funny, because I'm sure even with many people here, you'll find that they'll tap in and they'll be yes, yes, yes. But, oh, hang on a minute. No, I really think that all sorts of things, you know. You know, I've been in other places doing courses where, you know, their practices and their rituals are outside of what I would even consider to be spiritual, but they are. So it's a very interesting topic.
Oh,
yeah. See, I don't have words for what I think and feel. I have many words for what I think and feel and do.
I love your many words. I think language is important. It's so funny, because when I was traveling with my Navajo brother up in Canada, and he and I have never really, you know, I have not. Funny enough, you guys, like, as many times as I've been to the Navajo Nation and been to the family property and had ceremonies done, I don't talk about myself. I don't, like, if people don't ask me, I don't tell them what I do, how I do. But apparently my ex-boyfriend said something about me being a psychic, and all he thought, my friend Pat thought, was that I was like the Sedona psychics. And he goes, we're driving, and he goes, so tell me what it is what do you do? And I was like, the world calls me psychic. Because that's the only way for them to understand in an easy way, that label, only way for them to understand kind of what I do. I said, and it's very limiting to me. I don't even like that
Yeah.
title.
Mm.
I don't think intuitive's enough either, right?
No. And you know the experience you've had when you've guided me through my belief systems and my connection to my spiritual awakening and beliefs, that the word psychic was, and again, it was because when I left, basically the week after I left corporate space, I was in the spiritual shop. It's crystal shop, but whatever we want to call it. And I was there doing my practices, and I was developing all of my gifts. And it was my father who just said to my mum, like, how can she just one day decide to be psychic? Like, really? And he calls it voodoo. So, of course, that triggering of, yeah, he's right. Like, how can I claim this when you broke it down and all those things that I do and I'm being are psychic? Yet it's, and I'm going to go off topic, but on topic, it's no different to the word fat, you know, and I had this whole connection to that word. And when you I'm going to say desensitize from the word and go, it's just a word. It's a descriptive word around whatever. I think psychic is the same. But isn't it interesting that once you yourself connect with what it means for you, then the word and the charge that word has changes, and you
It loses
resonate
its
differently.
power to a certain amount, to a certain extent.
Yep, exactly.
Because even
So
my
I
friend,
find
he
that it
was
rolls
like,
off my tongue.
he goes, "You're not a psychic." He goes, "That's not what you are then." I said, "Look, it's the only way for me to explain to people in an easy way what I do for work. When they ask me, what do you do for work? I tell them I'm a psychic or I'm a spiritual counselor. And then that just opens up this whole other thing I don't want to get into with people when I meet them. So a lot of times I will say, now to the regular world, people out there that ask me, like, I don't know, my insurance agent or the person at the hair salon, they'll say, what do you do? And I'll say, I'm a counselor of sorts. I won't say life coach. I won't say I counsel business people. I don't say I'm a psychic, because there's no way in this spiritual walk of mine I can explain all that I can do. Like, yes, I do healing. Yes, I channel. Yes, I teach. Yes, I am a spiritual teacher. There's so many different things. But can I just say, like, well, I'm spiritual? That's not really an occupation to most people in the world. So yeah.
But to hear it is, and then in this space it is. So that's the human side of us learning how to understand somebody's language, and that's basically all I've ever done. You know, whether it be in a professional space or outside, it's connecting with somebody, listening to what their pain points are, listening to how you need to deliver your perception and their message. I know if somebody would have said to me, even 5 years ago, you know, Julie, you'd be doing all of this psychic work, you'd be doing channeling, you'd be, you know, connecting with galactics. I honestly would. I would have judged that person so much, and I would have been fearful, because it's like that's where I was at. Yet, if that person who didn't start to share with me the knowledge, the experiences, and highlight what I was doing that was very intuitive, then I wouldn't have had the opportunity to explore it. So I think that's part of, you know, what you and I do. It's about having the awareness around how can we match their language, match their words, match their understanding, so that they get the opportunity to explore that part of themselves, because part of your intuition will be picking up that's exactly where they're at. But it can be fearful. So no different to what I do is breaking through their belief system, and you're doing the same thing. and we know how to match people at whatever space they're in. And of course, you know, I just know there's nobody really that I've had a conversation with that is completely shut down. They'll be saying certain things about, I don't believe in that stuff. And I got this in rooms with lawyers. It's like emotional intelligence, let alone intuition. But I found if it was predominantly men who are professional, talk about instinct, talk about their business instinct, talk about their leadership instincts, same, but different. And the activities that we were doing was all energy-based. They were feeling in, which I couldn't say that, but hey, lean in to your instinct. Feel into your energy, use your psychic, you know, awareness, those sorts of things. So it's a funny little dance that we do. It's our intention and our integrity, I believe, on how we do that, because I think that's where in some spaces when people get the ego trips and become the gurus, that's them fulfilling their needs, not somebody else's. So
It's funny,
yeah.
even the word energy anymore in certain circles.
I know.
Like you say, like the energy of a room, right? Like in some circles, you can say that and someone just gets it, right? I walked into this room with funky energy, and that's okay. Turn around and say the vibe was just so bad. And it changes the way someone sees it, depending on what group you're in front of. It's just funny to me, like these games we play. I like what Beverly has to say. I'm going to put your comment up, Beverly, if I can reach my mouse. Hang on a minute, because I think this is an important one. Spirituality to me is the expression of my connection to who I really am. I am a spiritual being, a light being, pure consciousness, having an experience as a human being in the role that I'm playing here on earth, shining my light. That was very, very beautifully articulated. Thank you. Seriously. So yeah, I mean, we are here, just doing this radio show, and it's so amazing to me. Like everything has come this weird full circle in the last 2 weeks for me. Just my friend coming around up to Seattle, me taking him to Canada, us starting the podcast Hidden Wisdom. Funny enough, first episode, we have issues. We got to jump on Facebook, which thank God for Facebook, because we are able to still do the show. Otherwise, we would be knocked off air. I'm not going to let anything stop us. But there's this weird full circle. I stopped Hidden Wisdom Radio when I had colon cancer. My friend came into my life during that time and helped heal me. Like their medicines, their ceremonies healed me. And it's this weird, it's been 3 years, full circle. And now here we are again, right? And starting this whole new thing, to me, feels like we need to. There's something about, I think, where people are at right now and what's coming. You and I've touched on this before, with all of this planetary stuff and what's going on. And I think it's cool because here I am in the US, you're in Australia, right? So you're a day ahead of us, right?
Yeah, that's right. I
don't even know 7 hours
like,
behind or something.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think when it's happening, it's happening. So it'll be a certain time in your place and a certain time in mine. But I'll often joke and say, you watch out tomorrow because it's coming. It's on its way. So it's but even that in itself, so having awareness and knowledge around that, go back to the article, it still can be something that people, and they talk about retrograde. Oh, it's the retrograde. And people who have no care of spirituality or energy or anything like that will talk about the planets. And it's probably the space that I saw had more credibility starting to flow in corporate, because people were getting into astrology and numerology. So all of a sudden, because it had a math space to it, it was regarded as having credibility. So, of course, I would sort of draw on that. And what I was going to say is that I think for me, it helps me feel a little bit more at ease and in harmony, no different to when I found out what an empath was. So when I found out what an empath was, what the traits were, what some behaviors were, I was relieved. And it's not because all of a sudden, here's a reason or here's an excuse. No, it allowed me to connect with a group of behaviors and thoughts and being, this super sensitivity that I was sort of so victimized for and alienated for, actually had its purpose. And I've got to say, if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't be as aware as I am now. And the biggest thing that I was teaching others is and you talk about energy, but I'd tell them, use your senses and turn them right up. So if you can see what isn't being shown, hear what's not being said, and just lean in to the dynamics. And that's the words I would use in a corporate sense. They were still getting to feel that sensory perception around what was going on, because the one thing that's happened is that people are just, we're stuck in screens. It's actually a little bit scary, because I'm somebody who of late has started to put my phone away, because I have the habit of picking my phone up while I'm driving, have a look at it. And the laws are just getting too strict. So it's like, put it right out of the way. The thing is, what I'm noticing is how many people are driving looking into their screen. How many people are like sitting at restaurants, and so the world and technology and this human disconnect is really huge, and it's accelerating quickly. That is why I feel we have this spiritual awakening that, and it'll come out in different words, that everybody is starting to experience this sense, this thing. I don't know. It's this inner thing, Julie. I feel this thing, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's your spiritual. It's your soul.
I like to call it truth awakening, not so much the spiritual awakening. And I really think it's the truth awakening. It's whatever your highest truth is awakening. It's the consciousness of that. It's the understanding of that. It's the intention of walking your own truth. And my truth and your truth are at any given moment are going to be completely different. Truth's subjective that way. Right. And it's relative to whatever you've contextualized in your own life. Like, what are the circumstances? You and I can be sitting there looking at the same sunset and be totally in a different experience. You know, so even with spirituality and this walk we do and these things we try to strive for, it really is just striving for the truth of who we are. Less all of the programming and all of the world telling us how to be, what to be, you know, what to strive for, how to compare ourselves, how to judge ourselves. It's like, that is what we're striving to learn. Who am I? What do I want? Right.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And sometimes it doesn't feel good. Right. Spiritual awakening does not feel good. When it happens, that dark night of the soul, that you come crashing down and realize, oh my God, there's so much I didn't know is real. You hit that dark night of the soul. It can last a week. It can last a year. It can last 10. Right. Like that's still part of the spiritual awakening. And that's not a positive feeling.
Yeah.
But it's
and
powerful.
I think that, absolutely. And I think that has become one of the focuses that I have when I'm talking about mindset. You know, if you think about your body being the vessel that you're traveling in, that vessel has that, you know, it's like a car, you know, and you get a car that's had so many kilometers on it, or it's been resprayed, or it's got a new motor in it. You know, we have generations, we have lifetimes, we have past lives, depending on your beliefs, that is all in our DNA. That's, you know, we've got all these other chemical makeups, and it's all in there. So we have to understand that if we're going to get into a used car, there's some things that we need to tune. We need to fine tune. We might need to change the tires. We might need to change whatever. It's about working through and having that awareness around there's a program in there that doesn't mean that it's the absolute truth. And I think one of the biggest learnings I had in my complete burnout and my complete depression was that, you know, and I'm very much somebody that's a bit probably pig-headed when it comes to my belief system, and my integrity is everything. But to have that, I don't know what the word is, but basically to then go, you know what, I'm not always right. So if I'm not always right, then it's not just about going, oh, well, I'm wrong and I'm bad. It's about, I'm curious. How do I know this is true for me? How do I know this is true for me for where I'm at right now? Because that's the key to this. It's about working with the way we are thinking. Now, there's an unconscious part of this that we don't know, but the stuff that we do know is just a pre-recording of what we've experienced before. And so it's about creating how we experience moving forward. And then that's got a whole other layer to it as well in our worth, in our values, in our beliefs around ourselves. So it's understanding that if we can really just understand those parts, trust in spirit, trust in that pure source connectedness and knowing, how do we then start to explore and journey through the consciousness to then start to break down what isn't working for me? Because I believe that people can sit in a night of the dark soul for many years. And so I suppose through my work, it's about make a choice here. And it doesn't have to happen for many years. You can choose to make change now, but here's some reality checks. It does, you know, the minute you say yes and I'm in, and this is the biggest thing for me, the minute I said, yeah, I'm in, you know, I'm going to stay here, that's when the hard stuff started. But the more I educated myself and had others teach me, the more it became manageable. And I felt the certainty and the confidence you feel just to have knowledge is just powerful. It's then about applying it and taking action. That's a whole other thing again. But it is multifaceted. There's so many layers. And I suppose that's the art of what I love to do, is work with that human vessel and particularly the computer that runs that human vessel. How can we start to work with it and allow our spirit to sort of channel through a lot more effectively? And it may not happen all in my lifetime. I really don't know, but I know that I've come here to play a part in that, and it's become my passion. Yeah.
It's fun though. It's fun to shine the light for other people in the role that we're in. But I also think it's equally fun to do that work for yourself. Oh. There's that. Oh. There's that thing of I know, like, every time there's another layer that becomes apparent in my own life, and you guys tell us if this is true for you too, but like when there's a new layer that appears, it's like peeling wallpaper sometimes. It's such tedious work, right? But you're peeling one layer and you're like, wow, that other layer's there. Where did that come from? Like, who put it there? And then there's a little hole there, and there's like, wow, there's another layer there too. But you've got to actually remove each layer in a whole to get to the core. And that's what I think what we're trying to do on our spiritual walks is we're trying to get to the core that it allows us to connect to spirit in a very childlike way, without all of the googly gunk and all of the programs and all of the societal rights and wrongs. And so to me, I really feel like that work is fascinating. It's fun, but I think a lot of people look at it like work. It really is more of it's discovery. It's curiosity.
But even see what you're doing in the words that you reframe things in. That's exactly, that's sometimes the role that we play, is because I know I will practice this stuff with others. I can be phenomenal and people will get their results. There's a part that I still have in my shadow or in my blinkers that I don't hear myself say those things, and I don't see myself or know what my blockages are. So it's always good to educate other people around me. Yet the thing is to have that trust and that connection with somebody so that you ask their permission. Can I suggest that you look at this differently? And instead of saying it this way, and I was in a space this morning coaching, and it was interesting how this person was to say, look, I've just doubled my prices, but, and then there goes that word but, which just negates everything. I'm doing it because I need to keep my family comfortable and secure, and all this stuff that her language went into. I could hear that she was wanting to justify that need. When, what about if you just say, I've actually just aligned myself with my offering being at a certain price, and it's so that I can create an environment for my children to nourish in. It's so that I can contribute to other things. It's the words that you use and the framing that you put around something that shifts your energy in a moment. Because when things are hard and when it's difficult and I'm really struggling, and you just listen to people and you feel the energy flop when you're listening, just to be that scaffolding for somebody's language is key. And the minute I start doing it for something, I hear myself, and then I get to catch myself and go, I just buttered that. And, unconsciously, when you say the word but, your unconscious mind goes, I can fail at this, and that's okay. So I know now, before the word comes out, I stop, and then I know how to go and then I frame it in a way that will have me focus on what I want as my outcome, as opposed to wanting to move away from the fear of this either happening or not happening. Absolutely. It's all very interesting. Our language, our language gives us some insights to how this thing's going.
That thing is it's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah. And so many aspects of it we have not uncovered of what it is, what's possible, right? No. There's so much more that's possible.
Yeah, and we come from light and we come from frequency. So, of course, you think about words and where they even started, and they were grunts, they were groans. the frequency that we hear, tones, the ringing in our ears, it all comes down to that. When we swear and a child picks up on that, they don't know the word, what it means, but they feel it and they feel the frequency of what it creates. I was having this conversation with my children the other day because certain words that they just say freely now was such a taboo word when I wouldn't even say that in front of my parents. But I feel it. It's just so commonly used. And it's because the frequency has aligned itself to go, oh, you know what? It's acceptance. We've just accepted. It's another word. But it's knowing that as we speak, and anyone that's done any vocal training, the frequency or the tone, and the pitch that people hear, as opposed to what we hear within us, to then the actual what's coming out. It's so fascinating. It's just, I love that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Well, even when people speak a totally different language, it's to me, just that having to feel what they're saying, right? Having to feel it, like just sitting with the Navajos. I remember when the matriarch at the family at my ceremony, she spoke at length, but she doesn't speak English. She speaks Navajo. And I was very present watching her. And every time she spoke, I listened. I couldn't understand a dang word. Like, I didn't know what translated those words meant, but I can tell you this much. I could feel it. I could feel it deeply, and it was moving something around in me because I was having emotional reactions to it. So it's very true. Our words have power. That's why animals, whether it's, I swear they understand sometimes, because there's times when I will call our dog a name after he's done what he knows he's not supposed to do. And even if I say it softly and nicely, he turns and gives me that look like, how dare you say that to me? Right? It's the energy and the intention behind me saying it. They feel
it. Definitely. Intention is big, because I did the same thing when I went to Fiji. I went to a service there, and at first it was like, but I don't understand a word. But my intention was there. My daughter went on a European tour, and one of the countries that she went to, they spoke very loud. The words were short. They were forceful, and it was like they were spitting while they were speaking. Now, her intention was from a child, very like, oh, they're so loud, they're so in your face, and so she wasn't even allowing herself to want to connect. She took it very offensively, and yet it's just a language. I remember a gentleman, I think he was a preacher or a minister, from Papua New Guinea. And he was in one of the rooms that I was doing some sort of course in one day. And he got up and he stuck his finger up, his middle finger. And he said, I'm going to tell you, he said, and I've watched all of you in the room gasp at what I just did. He said, if I did this in my congregation, he said, nobody would they'd be curious as to why I stuck my finger up, but it doesn't have the meaning and the intent behind it as what it does here in your culture. And I thought, wow, that is true. Because at the end of the day, it's just a finger, but it's the intention and it's the energy, it's the everything that you put behind it. People will do it and it's a joke. Others will do it and, it's the intention behind it. So it's very, very interesting, all that sort of stuff. Very interesting.
Well, I mean, really, just going back to that whole thing of the only experiencing positive emotions. Right? Like faking this positive, happy place. Like that's that thing too, where I've felt into it with people I've listened to, that I've experienced on a level of them being the teacher or them being the guru or whatever you want to call it. And feeling into it, knowing that there's an underlying energy there. There's I can feel something that their words aren't saying, that we actually need to give ourselves permission to feel. And it won't always be positive. Their words may be positive, but if you feel something under it, you need to trust that feeling, trust that vibe for yourself. I think that's one part I think that a lot of people kind of tend to miss. They think, but they're, they do the worldly thing. they've got 1 million followers on Facebook. They've got a TV show, or they've got like book deals. They must be doing some, or they have someone, or they themselves are good at marketing. If you feel something devious, you need to trust your own feels.
Yeah, and that's and exactly why we do the work we do. And Beverly might know this sort of stuff just like you and I. As a human, we have a programming that our brain takes in information from our world. And, whether it's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, or ID, well, that ID, that last sort of learning style, taking in the world, is something that is very black and white, very logical, practical. And so different people take in things before they make it credible. So some people have to see, wow, you're on television, that must mean. So for them, for their logic mind, there's credibility. That they've written a book, they've this, they've that. And they don't really think as to, well, that book was funded by somebody, that book was actually written by somebody else. It's not about the credibility or the depth. It's just that what it looks and what it perceives in that person's status. And for them, that's important. So that's why it's really important that you know what your way of taking in your world is and how you align to your credibility, whatever your credibility is. I do feel into things. My husband is very much, like, seriously, and I'll say it lovingly, he's emotionally crippled. He'll listen to a couple of words somebody said, and he's just taking what he needs to, and that's it. See you later. I've felt into it. I've heard what they didn't say. And 9 times out of 10, when I pick things up, he's like, how did you even do that? And I'll say, well, for me, it's important because we'll recruit people for his business. I don't just need to know that person's got the qualification. Because 9 times out of 10 over here, there's a real clever way that you can just make your resume look a certain way because people only take in so much of it and they don't do reference checks. I want to feel in that person, okay, they've got a qualification or experience, but I want to know that person has actually got the values that we have, because if they don't, that's what's going to, like, the trust won't be there, the connection won't be there. How do I know that they're going to jump on board and do the work that we do, or that it's our branding, so to speak. And so we had an experience last Christmas, and I watched a young person that's employed have a lot to drink, and then you put that Christmas party, you put some money on the bar for everybody at our table to drink, and he went to another table and he was buying this whole table of people drinks on our bill. And so, me having the insight that I do, I was curious to understand for the purpose that he did that, because they weren't people that he knew. But for whatever reason, he saw that opportunity to take that opportunity to do for whatever reason. But there was another part of it that really rubbed up against my values, because it was like, I don't know whether I could trust you if I left you with a credit card to do certain purchases. And so, it's just about having a conversation around that to then understand the purpose of him doing that. He might have just been so intoxicated but see, it's things like that I will think about, whereas my husband will just be, sorry about it. Okay, radio. But then when something happens, you would give an insight. So, when you feel into things, because your body is a great barometer, it tells you a lot. And so if you're not using that sensitivity, find out a bit later than you could have. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, wow. This has gone like so fast. We are almost at the top of the hour. And yeah, I want to hear from you guys in the chat that's still here with us. What do you think? I'm going to put this up on Hidden Wisdom on Blog Talk Radio as just the episode of the audio, so you guys can download it and share it around if you want to. But for those of you here, how do you like the format? Forget the fact that we had to do it on Facebook Live. So ridiculous. I want to, before we leave, give Julie a chance to tell you what she's got going on for those of you who are women. That's who she works with, and share with us how to get in touch with her, because I think it's really important now that she's on here, and she's going to be doing her own shows as well on Blog Talk Radio on our Hidden Wisdom, to share how to get in touch with her.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. At the moment, it really is through my pages. So many of you here know me through Luminary Wisdom. I've also now just created, because I'm getting serious about being able to offer this as my full-time gig. So I have a page which will be under my name. At the moment, it's a little bit misnamed, isn't it, Bernadette? So it's a business and strategy coaching, but I'm going to change that in the next couple of days so that it will be my name, and it's just Intuitive Strategist. And so really at the moment, that it's the best way. Or I have an email address, which is Julie, Julie, with an underscore, OBRIEN, with a number 2 at bigpond.com. They're the ways to connect with me. I am really focusing on intuitive women who really want to explore who they are and what it is that they want to do, not only to empower themselves, but to create a spirit-filled business with that gift that they have, or just the passion that they have. And so when intuitive women are starting to create something like this, they really need to think about themselves as a businesswoman. And those of us who are very intuitive find that really hard to understand how to market ourselves, brand ourselves, how to charge money and accept it as an energetic offering. And they're the things that I really want to create a space, and also a whole lot of tools so that women can create their spirit-filled business, so that they can start to develop that financial security, empowered way of thinking, so that they can just create a lifestyle, a business lifestyle, so that they're living as well as creating income for themselves. I think that's at the crux of things. I still do the one-on-one coaching. Yet what I'd really like to do is encourage people to contemplate working in a block time with me, sort of over 90 days. And so I've created a program that is about to be launched the middle of this month, where there's an intensive 90 days with me in a group coaching environment. Yet there'll be lots of templates and things for you to just get clear on who you are and what it is you want to do, and how you message that out to the world, and how you also receive and manifest all of those things that you want to for your security, your certainty. Yeah. Again, that's all my words, Bernadette.
And they're beautiful words.
I never feel like give a answer.
Hey, it was
That's
beautiful.
my intention.
We want to thank you guys for joining us tonight, and invite you to come back